So 4 major differences between the Nike Metcon 7 and the Nike React Metcon Turbo is number 1, their outsole construction. So in the Nike Metcon 7, we have a fully reworked outsole compared to the Nike Metcon 6. And this outsole basically has grooves up here in the forefoot, gives it a lot more maneuverability, has this more concaved midfoot texture here. And then we also have that heel with the cutout with the hyperlift back here, gives it more of like a weightlifting shoe kind of feel and look. On the Nike React Metcon Turbo, we have 2 rubber outsoles on the forefoot and heel, and then we have like this plastic TPU disassociated midfoot. And so this gives this shoe a very much more like athletic feel. It's very low to the ground. Overall, these outsoles are both stable, and the rubber on the heel and forefoot are slightly different textures, so there is a slight difference there overall. The second difference is just the overall upper construction. So in the React Metcon Turbo, we have some of an asymmetrical build. We have a breathable mesh and a knit material that goes through the outskirts of this shoe, and that wraps around the heel on its respective sides. So on the medial side, we have more of a knit. On the lateral side, it's more of like this breathable mesh. And then on the Nike Metcon 7, we have more of like a chain link mesh throughout, some textured layers back here on the heel to add a little bit of support. And then we have like a medial rope guard here, which is rubber on the midfoot throughout the medial side, and some synthetic layers up here on the big toe and toe box to prolong the durability from toe dragging in this shoe. The third difference is the heel to toe drop. So in the Nike Metcon 7, we have a 7mm heel to toe drop, and in the Nike React Metcon Turbo, and I kid you not, I have reached out to their team twice now and asked about the heel to toe drop, and all I've gotten was it is similar-ish and suggested to be around 4mm, similar to other Nike Metcon models. Now, why there's no definitive there, I'm not sure. So if you're really interested, reach out, and if you find a definitive answer from the team, hit me in the comments below. But overall, 7mm compared to what is suggested to be 4mm. So similar to older Nike Metcon models, the React Metcon Turbo is rocking that slightly lower heel to toe drop. The fourth major difference is just the overall midsole construction. So in the Nike Metcon 7, we have that addition of the Nike React foam throughout, and then we have that hyperlift in the heel back here. So much higher stack height overall compared to the React Metcon Turbo, which features more of just like an extended outsole layer that wraps up. And the midfoot is pretty much just this plastic material. So it is very maneuverable through the midfoot compared to the Nike Metcon 7, which is more maneuverable through the forefoot. So overall, those are the major differences with these shoes. But now let's chat on performance, because in a gym setting, these both feel very different. So when chatting on a performance breakdown between the Nike Metcon 7 and the Nike React Metcon Turbo, I'm gonna break it into 3 parts. We'll talk about lifting, more of our versatile training, so that includes like HIIT training, agility work, and more athletic style work. And then also we'll talk about shorter runs. So now when it comes to lifting, both of these shoes provide a very different feeling. The Nike React Metcon Turbo feels like very athletic and low to the ground, whereas the Nike Metcon 7 has a slightly higher stack height compared to prior Nike Metcon models. So when it comes to lifting as a whole, from a stability point of view, I think both of these models are plenty stable for the recreational lifter or CrossFitter. And honestly, I have squatted over 365 in each and have deadlifted well over 400. Haven't noticed any real issues with stability. But what I will say is that if you like having a slightly higher stack height and heel to toe drop, the Nike Metcon 7 might be your call. Whereas if you like having a slightly lower heel to toe drop and a more low to the ground feeling shoe, the Nike React Metcon Turbo I think will be your best bet. Now, when talking about versatile training, overall, both of these shoes are pretty damn solid across the board. I like the reworked React midsole in the Nike Metcon 7. It's a lot more forgiving for plyometrics and bounding activities, and I think this shoe is way better for longer duration plyo work, whereas the Nike Metcon 5 and 6 got a little bit uncomfortable at times just because it was so stable. There wasn't a lot going on to provide a nice responsive feel to it. So overall, I do like the Nike Metcon 7 for more of your versatile style training. And I think it's a much more forgiving build compared to the Nike Metcon 5 and 6. Now, the Nike React Metcon Turbo is honestly like a very interesting shoe because it almost feels like a cleat to me. Like it almost feels like a low fitting track shoe. And with this disassociated midfoot, it's really interesting because if you're doing a lot of forefoot work, so where you're on the toes a lot, I think this model is one of the better cross training shoes for that. So if you're an athlete training outside, for example, the Nike React Metcon Turbo is an awesome option. Plus, what gives this model its versatility is the insole, which features the Nike React foam. So the Nike Metcon 7 features that throughout the midsole. In this model, we're getting that through the insole. So it is an overall different fit and feel, and that's what provides it, I think, with its overall low to the ground feeling, because when you remove this insole, like there's not much separating the internal part of the shoe and the ground. Like you can literally see me poking up through this heel here Like there's not much that separates it. So the insole is what provides you with that more responsive feel in the Nike React Metcon Turbo. So when it comes to shorter runs, both of these models are okay, and they each have their own list of strengths. So if you're training in between like 200 meters and 800 meters, the Nike Metcon 7 I think is gonna be a pretty good bet. I would not run longer than 800 meters in this shoe. It's just like every other Nike Metcon model, it's not gonna be that forgiving, and I would definitely recommend biasing a forefoot or midfoot strike in the Nike Metcon 7. Now when it comes to running in the React Metcon Turbo, I would suggest limiting yourself to sprint work and anything with like 100 meters and down. So basically any type of run where you're gonna be heavily on the forefoot is gonna be your best bet in this model. With its low profile design and pretty much very stable heel and not that much midfoot support, anytime you're gonna be having a lot of midfoot strike or heel strike in this model, it is going to be very uncomfortable. So if you are sprinting or if you're doing any form of run where you are very forefoot heavy in the shorter distance range, I think that's where this model excels, and that's why I like it a lot for athletic style training and recommend it for athletes who want a cross training shoe to wear to the gym, but also on the field, etc., in their plyo, agility work and whatnot, and with their sprint work. But overall, those are my performance thoughts on these shoes. They're both really solid in their own right, and they each have their own list of pros and cons. If you like more of a traditional training shoe that is designed for CrossFit and will be a bit more geared towards that style of training, opt for the Nike Metcon 7. We have rope guards, we have the Hyperlift. It is gonna be a bit better for that style of training. And if you're somebody who just wants a low profile shoe that can tackle a lot of athletic work, some lifting here and there, and also some agility and plyos, I think the Nike React Metcon Turbo is a really good model for you. All right guys, now let's do a visual construction breakdown with the React Metcon Turbo and the Nike Metcon 7. So up here on the toe, both have an extended outsole layer here that's slightly thicker than what the Metcon 6 has. Personally, I love that for durability purposes. Haven't noticed any lipping issues yet. Plus, I love that it biases the big toe because I think that's where you're gonna want the traction most, but also the durability most. Up here on the toe box on the Metcon 7, we have a synthetic layer here. That's great for durability, especially with toe dragging. And then on the React Metcon Turbo, we have a little piece of synthetic material here, knit, synthetic, and then we go into more of that like breathable mesh over here on the lateral side. Overall, I do wish the toe box in the React Metcon Turbo was slightly more durable, but it does a decent job, and I haven't noticed any issues yet. Again, though, I would just say limit how much friction you're putting on the upper in the React Metcon Turbo. Making our way to the midfoot. So in the Nike Metcon 7, we have 5 eyelets that run up. 3 have flywire here on the lateral side, and we also have the lace lock mechanism. So you can either pull this down and link it here, or you can put the laces underneath up here and lock them down. It's really personal preference, I think. Some folks have said it's only for the upper, but then why else would this blue layer be down here? On the React Metcon Turbo, we have also 5 eyelets that run up, and we have like this internal layer here on the medial side that has like kind of a double loop. And then on the lateral side here, we have kind of like it's just a standard looping process. Overall, I really like how the lacing system works in the React Metcon Turbo. It gives it a very secure feeling, and that's what I think gives this model also more of its athletic feel and fit. Making our way to the midsole. So in the Metcon 7, we have the addition of the Nike React foam throughout. So as you can see, that's this purple material here. It gives the forefoot a really reactive feel. And then back here on the heel, it does not compress nearly as much, and that's because we have that Hyperlift addition in here. So that's this orange piece down here. And we also have a handstand clip. Now, what I will say is, since the Hyperlift sticks out further than this handstand clip, like I'm not sure how much that is actually doing, but whatever, it's there. It doesn't really impact performance at all. And then looking at the midfoot, so we have the Nike swoosh on the lateral side of the Metcon 7, an extended outsole layer that wraps up, just like most Nike Metcon models. And then on the medial side here, an outsole layer that wraps up. We have a slight indentation here compared to the Nike Metcon 6. That is new to the 7. And we also have this medial rope guard. And then looking at the upper around the heel, we have a textured layer back here. So as you can see, there's a lot of layers going on back here to the heel. It adds a nice level of security and stability back here on the boot. Looking at the overall midsole construction throughout the Nike React Metcon Turbo, we don't really have a big midsole at all. We have this extended outsole layer that wraps up. We have this plastic TPU again throughout the midfoot. And then we have again an extended outsole layer back here on the heel. And if we turn it to the medial side, same construction throughout. Again, plastic midfoot. We have an extended outsole layer here. And then we have an extended plastic heel clip back here for handstand push-ups. And then looking at the outsoles on the React Metcon Turbo, two different types of rubbers, sticky rubber up here, slightly more firm rubber back here. And again, this plastic material here, like as you can see, like you can really maneuver this shoe really well. And that's what I think is really cool about this model is you can really disassociate the heel from the forefoot, which gives it a much more athletic and agile feel. Looking at the Nike Metcon 7's outsole, we have grooves up here throughout the forefoot, gives it that nice little reactiveness. We have a concave texture here on the midfoot, which I actually think adds to some of that midfoot support in this model. You don't really get a lot of midfoot support in the Nike Metcon 6, but in the Metcon 7, you actually get a little bit, which is honestly, I think, a really nice perk. And then back here on the heel, again, rubber outsole, and a little cutout here where you can see the hyperlift through. It kind of gives it a similar feel to most weightlifting shoes, how they all have that little cutout back here on the heel as well. Doesn't really impact performance or stability, and I haven't noticed any issues yet. And then making our way to the tongues, a thicker tongue here on the Nike Metcon 7. On the Nike React Metcon Turbo, we have a thin tongue. And what I will say is, check this out. The tongue itself flares out on the medial and lateral side. And we know with thin tongues and Nike models, do not pull on them because they can be prone to ripping. So when you pull this on your foot, make sure you're pulling at both sides. We don't want this tongue ripping too quickly on you, and I would highly suggest putting these on with care and caring for the tongue when putting them on. So when we're looking at the insole construction, the Nike Metcon 7 has your standard insole. So as you can see, not much going on here. In the Metcon 6 and Metcon 5, we had that dual textured midsole, and that's what gave those models their nice, like, versatile, responsive feeling. And then in the React Metcon Turbo, where the React comes from in the name of this model is with the insole. So in this model, we've already talked about this, but the insole has the Nike React foam, and then that's pretty much it to this shoe. And this insole is pretty much the meat and potatoes to the responsiveness of the Nike React Metcon Turbo. Overall, guys, I think those are the biggest construction callouts with both of these models. If you think I missed anything, or if you just want further clarification on any feature, hit me in the comments below. So now let's chat on sizing with these models. Overall, I think most folks will be safe going true to size in each of these shoes. They both have a slightly similar construction when it comes to like the width of their last. The length is both true. And what I will say, and this is why we experience heel slip in Nike Metcon models, with their low profile designed heels, if you have to size up to make this shoe accommodate your foot anatomy, you may run into some heel slip. If there's a lot of room in the heel and toe and you're sliding around with low profile boots, you may have a little bit of slippage there at the heel. So what I would say is that if that sounds like you may want to look into different models that I think accommodate your foot anatomy a little bit better. But if that doesn't sound like you and you do like how the Nike Metcon models fit, then you should be safe going true to size. So when chatting price for each of these models, the Nike Metcon 7 comes out to $130 USD, while the Nike React Metcon Turbo comes in at $150 USD. Now, with the release of the Nike Metcon 7, we have seen some colorways drop in this model. And what I would say is to shop around, try to find the best deal on the React Metcon Turbo if you're looking for it. And also make sure you're buying the shoe that is contextually appropriate for your needs to ensure your money goes the distance. Plus, if you want to really make these go the distance too, try to limit their use only for training. So then that way, if you are investing $130 plus for one of these shoes, it will last you a while. All right, guys, that wraps up my review of the Nike Metcon 7 and the Nike React Metcon Turbo. I think contextually speaking, both of these models excel in their niche realms of activity. The Nike Metcon 7, I think, is by far the better shoe for the avid CrossFit athlete, while the Nike React Metcon Turbo provides a very interesting feel for more of the athletic focus lifter and athlete. If you have any questions on either of these models, hit me in the comments below. And as always, guys, drop a like on the video, drop subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.